Welcome to my Elderwood ASOL guide. This comp is incredibly powerful, and the first person to hit Challenger in North America was playing this comp in most of his games. In this video, I'll be going over the build and the different chosen variations of it, what items you make, how to play the early, mid, and late game, and then we finish off going over in-depth positioning. This comp is very forcible, and this is what the level 8 version looks like without any chosens. In most cases, you will remove either Nunu or Aatrox depending on your chosen. The basic game plan is that ASOL is our main carry and Saya is our secondary carry. The Elderwoods scale up and stall out the fight, and that will let ASOL ult multiple times to wipe out the enemy team. You can also roll for 3-star 2 cost in some situations, and I'll cover those in the late game part of the video. The first chosen variation is if you get an Elderwood chosen that is not Maokai or Nunu. In this case, we take out Nunu to put in Sejuani. Even though 3 Vanguard looks pretty scuffed, the stun from Sejuani paired with Aatrox pulling in units is really powerful and helps the comp's game plan of stalling the fight to let Elderwood scale up and to let ASOL ult multiple times. You can also go into 5 Mage by taking out Aatrox and Nunu to put in both Annie and Brand. The second variation is if you get Mage chosen. Here you take out Aatrox for Annie. This gives our team more damage, and with this chosen, we can also slow roll for 3-star Annie, Rakan, and Lulu. The third variation is if you get a Keeper chosen. In this case, you take out Aatrox to put in either Kennen or Azir. Put the 2 soldiers in the red circles. At level 9, you will add in a unit to counter the other players. If you need more frontline, add in Azir. If you need more damage, add in Set or another ASOL. And if you need to break resistances, add in Yone. So to sum up, the best chosens are any Elderwood that is not Maokai or Nunu, any Mage chosen that is not TF or Brand, Keeper, Rakan, Saya, and Kennen. ASOL is our primary carry in this build, so we prioritize making items for him first. The only core item for him is Gunblade. This item allows him to heal back up to full HP after casting. Since there's so much CC and utility in this comp, he will often live to cast again for a second or even third time. The second and third items are going to be items that you can slam throughout the mid game to save HP. Jewel Gauntlet, Death Cap, i.e. Jewel Gauntlet combo, Hajj, Rageblade, Sojin, or Blue Buff. All of these items make him deal even more damage, and Rageblade, Sojin, and Blue Buff allows him to cast quicker so he can heal back up. Rakan is one of the best units in this comp. The utility his ultimate brings is insane, and his ult sustains himself as well. The items you want to put on him are Sunfire Cape, Ionic Spark, RFC, or even Frozen Heart. All of these items get value from the unit moving around and affecting multiple enemy targets. RFC increases his ult range, resulting in him flying across the map and disarming entire teams in some cases. Saya is our secondary carry, so you will usually end up throwing whatever AD items you have left on her. Since we are prioritizing items for ASOL and Rakan first, she will often only have 1 or 2 items on her in the endgame. Some of the better ones are IE, LW, Deathblade, BT, Hajj, and Sojin. All of these scale great with the Elderwood buff and allow Saya to properly finish off units. Other items that are great to make are Chalice and Seeks to buff ASOL even more. These want to go on Veigar as he will be next to ASOL in most cases. And frontline tank items go on Rakan or Aatrox. If you get a Spatula, the best thing you can make is Elderwood ASOL. Not only does this give you more options as it's easier to fit 6 Elder, but ASOL himself loves the stats he gets from it. Another great option is Mage Spat. This is fantastic on Rakan or Aatrox. Rakan will often disarm the entire enemy team, and Aatrox pulls in 4 units so that ASOL and Saya get insanely valuable ultimates. So your item priority is Sunfire for Rakan, then 3 items for ASOL, then the rest are either Saya or Rakan items. The carousel priority for this comp is Chain, Belt, Rod, then Tier. The reason Chain and Belt is so valuable is because of Sunfire Cape. That item is the best early game item, and is also a great item for Rakan. On stage 1, you want to pick up units that you can 2-star and that synergize well together. All of our units for this comp are 2, 3, and 4 cost units, so we won't be seeing too many of them in the early game. Therefore, you will just be playing strongest board with whatever units you can find, and then we transition into Elderwoods later in the game. Some strong early game boards that transition well into Elderwoods are Cultist Keepers. Here TF is our item holder and Rakan is here to provide great CC. Warlord Keepers. Here Nidalee is our item carrier. Rakan can be replaced with either Elise or another Vanguard. 2 Sharpshooters with Teemu as your carry. The frontline can be Brawlers, Vanguards, or Keepers. 3 Mage with either TF or Brand as your carry. During the early game, you want to make an item if you have 4 or more components, and some of the better items to make in the early game are Sunfire Cape. This is the best early game item, as the fights last very long, and in those fights, this item shines. Other great ones are Zeke's, Chalice, Zizirot, Spark, Deathcap, and Jewel Gauntlet. If you want to learn more about itemization, check out my item guide where I go in depth on every single one, link in the description. During the early game, you either play aggressive to win streak, or you play passive to focus on econ. Which route you take depends on the lobby and the strength of your own board. If you want to learn more about economy management, check out my guide where I go in depth on the subject, link in the description as well. At the Krugs round, you should have more direction towards the comp. The general requirements to play Elderwood ASOL are to have at least 1 item for a con or 1 item for ASOL, plus 1 component for an ASOL item. The units you have don't matter, as you will be transitioning into Elderwoods after Wolves. If you find an early ASOL or Xayah, you always want to hold them if you're not playing them, and you only hold other units for the comp if you're above 50 gold. We always want to wait until level 7 or 8 before reroll, but if you lost a bunch of rounds and you're very weak, typically around 60 HP or lower, then consider leveling to 6 on 3-2 and roll through about 10 to 20 gold to stabilize. Some good mid-game boards that transition well into Elderwood ASOL are Akali carry with 2 assassins. This can work with both Vanguard, Brawler, Keeper, Frontline, and also 4 assassins are great. Kindred carry with 2 spirits. Again, this can work with both Vanguards, Brawlers, and Keepers. Nico carry with Vanguards and Mystics. If you can get 3 Fabled in, then definitely do so. Shyvana with Brawler and Dragon Souls. If you can get 6 Brawlers in, then definitely drop Brand and Tristana to get that in. During the mid game, you want to scout the other players to see what items they've made, what units they have, what synergies they have, how they are positioned, and what comp they're going. This information will allow us to itemize ASOL better, and also allows us to see how contested the comp is, and if slowerling for 3 stars is even an option. Elderwood ASOL can usually support 2 to 3 players at max, so if you see more than that going for it, consider pivoting to another comp like Kale or Vanguard Mystics. At stage 4-1, you want to be level 7. From here, you get 3 different options depending on the circumstances of each lobby. Option 1. Slow roll for 2 cost 3 stars. You will do this in situations where you have good items for Rakan and maybe on Annie as well. The comp also needs to not be heavily contested. If there's one other person with 2-star Rakan and Lulu, you can still hit, but if more people than that are going for it, you should go for one of the other 2 options instead. If you're going to do this, you need to be healthy and strong enough to sit throughout stage 4. General requirements for this is that you have 1-star ASOL with most of the other 2 costs already 2-starred. Or you can have a 2-star 3 cost that carries the ASOL items well, like Kindred. Your 3-star priority is Rakan, Annie if you're running her, then Lulu. Once you hit your 3 stars, go level 8 to look for ASOL and Xayah 2-star. Option 2. Don't spend any gold and look to go level 8 on either 4-5 or 5-1. This is called a fast 8, and to do this, you need to be strong enough to not lose a bunch of rounds in a row. That will generally require you to have around 4 2-stars with a good item holder for ASOL. In addition, you should also be relatively healthy, typically around 60 to 70 HP or higher. Once you get to around 4 or 5, you want to level if you stay above 30 gold after leveling. And if you are around 50 to 40 HP or lower, you want to roll down for your comp here. If you're healthy enough, save the money and roll on 5-1 instead. Option 3. Roll down at level 7 for your comp. This is pretty straightforward. If you're too weak to fast 8, you roll down to stabilize. Try not to go lower than 10 to 20 gold, as you still want to be level 8 on 5-1. Generally after rolling on 7, you want to have your 2 costs 2-starred and at least 1-star ASOL and Xayah. Once you are level 8 and you've hit your comp, you need to decide whether or not you can go level 9 this game. This requires you to be stable at level 8, and that generally implies a 2-star ASOL and you're only missing 1 to 2 other 2-stars. This will also depend on your items and the relative strength of the lobby. Level 9 is not something I achieve often in my games, and I would say I only get there in about 10 to 15% of my games. But if you do get there, you want to add in a unit that further supports your win condition, or a unit that counters the enemy teams. Some of the better options are Azir for another keeper and for more frontline, Set for even more damage, and he will often heal back up since the fights tend to last very long. Yone is great to shred the armor and MR of comps like Elderwood and Vanguard Mystics. Sejuani is great if you have Aatrox in and the enemy teams are clumped up, or you can just add in another 2-star ASOL or Xayah for more damage. In the late game, you're running Ornn, so I'll quickly go over which units the different items go on. I have made a guide on this that will be linked in the description, but if you're watching this as soon as the video is live, then it's not posted yet. Gold Collector goes on Xayah or Ornn. Death's Defiance goes on Aatrox, Ornn, Nunu, or Rakan. Infinity Force goes on Xayah or Rakan. Mana Zane goes on ASOL or Lulu. Eternal Winter goes on Rakan, Aatrox, or Ornn. Rocket Propelled Fist goes on Veigar or Lulu. Randuin's Sanctum goes on Rakan, Nunu, Aatrox, or Ornn. Sonya's Paradox goes on Xayah or ASOL. Obsidian Cleaver goes on Xayah or Ornn. Asima's Visage goes on Rakan, Ornn, Aatrox, or Nunu. First, I will go over general positioning with this comp, then I will go over some in-depth positioning examples. General positioning looks like this. Here we got Xayah in the right side cubby. We want Xayah to be on second row as her ultimate can reach the enemy backline from there. Ornn wants to be in the far right side so that he gets a much better ultimate angle as he targets the farthest away. Aatrox is between Nunu and Ornn to make sure he gets to cast his ultimate. Rakan is next to ASOL and Xayah to give them Keeper Shield. Lulu and Veigar are next to ASOL to protect them from assassins. ASOL wants to be in the corner as he gets the best ultimate angle from there. One really easy way to counter ASOL is to put one unit away from your comp, so if you take a look at this clip from Mismatched Socks, he put it in a Zero Soldier in the right corner. The enemy ASOL will then cast his spell on that unit as it is the farthest away, resulting in his team staying safe from the threat. If we wanted to counter an enemy ASOL with our comp, we would put Veigar in the left corner. This also works with a training dummy if you got that from the Lucky Lantern. Similarly, if someone is doing the same against us, we have to swap sides so that ASOL is far away from the clumps of enemy teams. Now moving on to some in-depth positioning examples. Against the first guy, we put ASOL in the left cubby so that he stays safe from the Jarvan ult. We have Aatrox and Ornn be away from the Shyvana so that they can pop her Trap Claw before ASOL casts. Xayah is positioned so that her spell angles towards the most amount of units. Against the second guy, the big threat is Talon. Here Ornn is positioned to make sure that Irelia disarms him and not ASOL and Xayah. From here, he can also slow the attack speed of the Talon as he is the farthest away after he's jumped. Nunu is on the other side so that he has a chance to eat Talon. Lulu and Veigar are on the other side to help deal with Talon and also have a chance to get pulled by Aatrox, keeping our ASOL and Xayah safe. Aatrox is in the middle to make sure that Sejuani's ult doesn't reach ASOL and Xayah. Against the third guy, the big threats are Kayle and Lee Sin. Nunu is positioned to get kicked by Lee Sin. He is getting kicked into Veigar. Not only does this make sure he doesn't die, this will result in Lee Sin kicking him over and over again until he dies from natural damage. Meanwhile, our carries are safe from him on the other side. Here Ornn and Aatrox is positioned so that Kayle is the farthest away and the others have to stay on the side to be out of range from Lee Sin. Against the fourth guy, the big threats are ASOL and Olaf. Veigar is positioned to be ASOL bait. Our ASOL is on the left side middle to stay away from ASOL but also being able to target him. Ornn and Aatrox are on the left side to pull in the enemy ASOL. Nunu is being targeted by Tahm Kench so that Aatrox and Ornn don't get slowed by Frozen Heart. Xayah is positioned so that she can range ASOL and Olaf with her ultimate. I also want to point out that Tryndamere is dashing into the Lulu Xayah Rakan clump, but since he doesn't have items, he's not really scary. Thank you so much for watching. If you learned something, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Comment down below what video you want me to make next. And if you want to get better at TFT, join the Discord. We got over 1,000 other players there who are hungry to climb. And if you want to get coached by me, the information is over on the Discord server as well. So take care and see you in the next video.